Welcome to another episode of Don't Call It Small. I'm your host, Natasha Foreman. If you don't know me and you have no clue what this podcast is all about, let me share a bit. I'm the CEO of ForemanAssociates, LLC, where we provide consulting, business support, and professional development services. And Don't Call It Small is where we talk all things business, share tips and news that you can use, and highlight the people and ideas behind the products and services that we buy. To learn more about our team, please visit ForemanLLC.com. Woo-wee! Hello, everyone. It's Wednesday, February 12th, and I want to give a birthday shout out to my sister. Today is her birthday. Woo, woo, woo! Happy birthday, Punka. Yesterday was my aunt Ava's birthday. Shout out to the February birthday babies. On the 7th was Tracy Wright's birthday, the founder and CEO of Black Diamond Edible Creations. So I just want to make sure I shout out all the birthday people so far. So today we're going to be doing episode 30, and we're going to talk about alternative benefit packages and payment structures. Interesting. So these all feed into each other. We blend everything together, and understanding that so many of you reach out to us via email, text, you send us DMs through Instagram and messages through Twitter and Facebook. So I want to make sure that we cover all of the things that you guys are thinking about. So when we're looking at alternative benefit packages, if you are a very, large organization, at most what you're trying to do is find innovative and creative ways to, keep things fresh and new, right? You don't have to struggle much with the considerations of what to offer your workers. However, if you are a smaller entity, right, and you have a much smaller budget, there are certain things that you're having to take in consideration, and your budget's going to restrict what you can do. But either way, no matter where you are on the spectrum of size of your entity, your organization, I just want you to be creative and innovative about how you celebrate and reward your team members. Understand that your organization is only possible because of them, because of their hard work, their efforts, the energy that they invest, the time that they invest, the passion that they invest into your ideas, your dreams, to make them a reality. So we know that, and maybe you don't, but for the most part, you know that only certain organizations are legally obligated to offer benefits, like as far as when we look at health insurance. And under the Affordable Care Act, which is actually something that's governed for even before, we had a lot of federal guidelines to health insurance, right? But under the Affordable Care Act, which some people call Obamacare, but the official title is Affordable Care Act. If your company has 50 or more full-time employees, then you're mandated to offer access to health insurance to your team. Now, this law doesn't mandate that you have to contribute the entire cost of the benefit, but you must offer access through your business. And under the Affordable Care Act, it defines full-time employees or the full-time equivalent employees a bit differently than you might at your company. So what they do is calculate the aggregate hours of service of your part-time employees for the month and then divide by 120 hours. So if you have 10 part-time employees and they each work 24 hours a week, that's a total of 960 hours worked for the month. And that would be by your 10 part-time employees. When you divide that by 120 hours, you get 8. So under the Affordable Care Act guidelines, your 10 part-time employees equal 8 full-time workers, right? So that's how you can consider that. Now, there are, of course, some huge penalties if you don't offer coverage. If you decide that you're going to try to skate around this, the penalty is $2,000 per year for every employee that's uncovered. So if you have 50 employees and you don't offer them access to insurance, you could face up to $100,000 fine. So when you start to calculate that, it seems more feasible to offer them insurance. Now, if you don't have 50 or more full-time employees, you do have some perks to offering insurance. You shouldn't just say, oh, well, I don't have 50 employees, so I'm not going to offer insurance. No, you should still consider offering certain insurance perks early on. So let's say you have less than 25 employees. You can still contribute at least 50% of the health insurance premiums for them and pay an average salary of less than like $54,000, right? And there's various tax credits available to you for that. So there's different things like that. Now, getting beyond our traditional lens of offering health, medical, dental, vision insurance, let's consider some additions or alternative benefits. Remember, we're to be creative. So something else that you could do is offer paid sick leave without guilt. Like, there's nothing worse than offering paid sick leave but making people feel guilty about taking it. And what happens is people don't take it, so they come to work sick. They then spread their yuckies throughout your company. Everybody is sick. Everyone's mad at them. They're mad at you. And all you had to do was release them from the guilt and shame of taking the time off to heal and get better. It's no different than when we have parents to send their kids to school sick. I remember one time I got the flu. I was teaching at a preschool. It was one of the worst flus I ever experienced, ever. Why? Because a parent decided to send their little child, little angel, send him to my classroom with what looked like slime on his face the entire day. Yes, imagine slime just drooling, slivering down your little 3-year-old, 4-year-old's face, and that teacher, moi, having to manage that child plus the other children that I had in my classroom. And the one time that I forget to clean my hands after handling this particular child is the one time I dread, because upon escorting this little angel to the restroom and then rushing out to tend to my other children who were fighting over like a toy or something, I forget to stop to quickly wash my hands. Instead, I ran out, told the kids, what to do to get in line because it's time for them to start getting prepared to go home. I then proceed to touch my face. I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. So the same is true. Don't send your children to school yuckies. Don't go to work with the yuckies. All right. There we go. So covering that, I want to make sure I cover that from one person to the next. We don't want your yuckies, and you don't want ours. So getting beyond that, let's be creative. You can offer paid sick leave without guilt. You can encourage workers to take part in professional development workshops, classes, seminars, etc. Matter of fact, you can pay to let your employees, take a course or seminar through ForemanAssociates. Hey, just going to drop that in there for you. And we'll, of course, be offering online and some in-person options coming up later in the year. So those are some certain things. Looking at other budget considerations. You can offer gift cards. I don't know why people are, you shy away from it. But the thing is that there's value in it. Whether the person takes it and uses it or they re-gift it, hey, it doesn't matter. It's the thought that counts. So gift cards to shopping, restaurants, coffee shops, movie theaters, spas, amusement parks, museums. I remember a couple of years ago, I gave gift cards to movie theaters. And the thing is that what I understand about certain team members, especially the team members that I've had, those that have children, oftentimes what happens is that if you don't help them visualize the ways in which they can have either free time or family time, they won't. So if I just gave them let's say $75, they would probably apply that $75 to something else. But if I give them a $75 gift card to the movie theater, guess what? It's family time. If I give you a $50 gift card to a spa, guess what? It's now your me time. Does that make sense? So it's making sure that there's the health and the wellness and the wholeness and its ability to have that work-life balance that people desire. But unless we empower them and sometimes help to structure that for them, they might not necessarily do it on their own because we've been programmed to just funnel money back in to cover the odds and ends, and then we complain about not having the money in order to do the things that help us with our wellness and our stability. So that's something that you can be able to do. Something else, discounts. Creating relationships with gyms and stores and other retailers for discounts for your team members, right? Those can be very beneficial. You can also be able to shop around for discount dental and vision plans. So let's say you're not part of the 50 and over full-time employee statute, right? You're not mandated by law to cover your workers' health insurance, but you want to find ways to benefit them. And so, like, for instance, what I had done was I looked around to see what type of discounted vision, dental, health plans there were available, if there were any type of establishments in our, nearby that offered affordable or discount payment plans or some types of structures that were not typical of most health and dental facilities. And so you can shop around for that. It's really helpful if you have an HR representative, team member, or team to help with this so that you, as the CEO, founder, whatever title you give yourself, that you're not then focusing on this. You're not inundated with this. Someone can bring this information to you and you can sign off on it. So this is something that you delegate, right? Some other ideas that I recommend is, if possible, if your budget permits, offering free meals. Like, hey, lunch on me, lunch on the boss. And depending on your budget, this could be weekly, it could be monthly, it could be quarterly. I don't know, whatever your budget allows. But, that is one great feature. Paid leave for volunteer work. Where you're allowing your workers to volunteer monthly and, they go out. And the thing is that it also enhances the energy and camaraderie amongst your organization, and it helps them as well. And they don't have to then feel like they're taking away from family time or taking away from work time and being penalized. You don't want your workers to feel penalized for doing good and doing well in the world. So paid leave for volunteer work. Something else, maybe you offer quarterly oil changes for employees, that people that have cars. It doesn't benefit anyone that has a bicycle or that takes public transportation. But those employees that have cars, to not have to worry about their oil change every quarter or so, or semi-annually, depending on how often they have to do their oil changes, that's a great benefit. Telecommuting. Here's a big one for me. I always cringe at companies who are so hard-nosed about this traditional work environment where I need to see butts in seats, right? I need to have the workers. I need to see them working. I had a client like that. Like, it just made no sense. He wanted his workers to travel 45 minutes up to 2 hours to come into the office to do work that they could have done from home. And to me, as I explained to him, you would have less overhead if you had an actually smaller office, allowed your workers to telecommute, and guess what? You then have more money to do more things for your workforce. But he didn't listen to me, and that didn't end up well for him. So telecommuting, allowing your workers to work from home. You can create different virtual components that make this feasible. It does require you as the manager, as the leader, to be more hands-on, to engage with them, because we can put them on islands, so to speak, and forget that they're there. Well, the same is true in the job site, where you just see people in seats, but you're really not sure what they're doing. So the same, it doesn't matter. It's how much you engage in that process. So you can set up different things where maybe workers have to, submit something, daily or weekly, or they do video chat calls with you on designated times. If you recall, I've said in previous episodes that Foreman Associates, we work on a theme system. So every day is a different theme. So Mondays, we're focused on management things. Tuesdays, we're dealing with product service. Wednesdays, we're dealing with marketing. Thursday, it's all about, client engagement and acquisition. And Friday is me really focused on how can I be a better manager leader and how can I try to find ways to invest in the team. And those are usually also the days that if I'm giving out some kind of perk, that's usually the day that I give it. And that's like, free day, go do what you're going to do. Enjoy this perk. I love you all, right? So that's something that you can do. You really need to consider. Ask yourself, do they really need to be here, butts and seats? If the answer is no, then free them. All you should really be concerned with is the work being done and being done on time and being done with, the level of the standards that you have set. So if they meet those qualifications, then who cares? You know that their 5-year-old isn't doing the work. You know they haven't delegated it to somebody else. And if they have, kudos. You see that there's a leader manager there, right? But what are you more concerned about? Now, I get it. If you have a restaurant, no, you can't send everybody. You can't say, okay, everyone could be telecommute. You need some, you need some feet on the floor. You need people you need wheels on the floor. You need people on the floor. That makes sense. But do you necessarily need your HR person there day in, day out? No, maybe you don't. Maybe only a couple of times a week or a couple of hours in the day. Do they actually need to be on site? Do you need your accountant on site? No. Like there's certain things that you don't. So why do it? Something else. Here's something that may make some of you cringe and make some of you excited. But maybe there's a bring your pet to work day. And that does depend on the pet. Because, some people have some crazy pets. Certain pets that were supposed to stay on farms and certain pets that were supposed to stay in the wild, people want to have in their home. So this does not mean bring your zebra to work. No. It does not mean bring your llama to work. No. This does not mean bring your little grizzly bear to work. So you'd have to be very specific and set the parameters because people will take it way too far. No different than when you have pajama day. Why is there always somebody showing up with lingerie or some open fly boxers? People. You see what I mean? So you do have to set the boundaries with that. But they have noted that people do feel more relaxed, and sometimes sometimes the environment is less stressful when their beloved pet is with them. There can be pluses, there can be some minuses. Minuses is that usually on every 2 hours, if you have a dog, that dog is having to be taken out to be relieved. I don't know. Certain pets are not acclimated and have not been socialized to be around other people, around other animals. So that may not necessarily work. But depending on your environment and how many workers you have, you may be able to pull that off, maybe like once a month or once a quarter, whatever, right? Bring your kids to work. Hey, some companies do this, and sometimes it's weekly, sometimes it's monthly, sometimes it's quarterly, sometimes it's annually. I don't know. You can figure out what works for you. You have to, just like the pets, set the parameters, those boundaries. Some children just don't seem to work right in certain environments. So unless those parents have helped mold their child to socialize in that kind of environment where mom, dad cannot give them undivided attention the way they do at home, then you may, find that your workers are less productive. But that is still an option to work with, right? Still something that you can work with. I think that if you have organizations that have this square footage and they have the availability to have an on-site daycare. My thing is that think about if you paid to have daycare workers on site providing, babysitting services during the hours of your operation. I mean, would it not be beneficial to your workforce? That's just a plus to me. And that is also contingent upon your operating budget. There's other legal things because you'd have to get certain insurance, most likely, and different waivers. But those are things that you should think about, especially as you expand, if that's your desire. Something else is sponsor a recreational sports league or some kind of, extracurricular type of league, whether it's robotics or sports or dance or some kind of exercise or whatever, that could promote physical, mental activity, team building, so on and so forth. I mean, you never know. You may find out you got 25 people that want to take part in a chess club. You may have 50 people that want to take part in a book club. You may have, if you have a smaller team, it may be even better because it allows you guys to get to know each other even more. So there's different benefits that you can offer. Something else, short-term or long-term disability insurance. Which ensures employees can still receive a percentage of their income if they can't work due to sickness, injury, disability, right? So you can look into those options as well. When you look at the percentage, it's so staggering of how many workers miss out on work, which translates to income, because they're out because of an illness, injury, or some kind of disability. So considering that would be very beneficial. And then something else I would add would be teamwork days. Like, be creative. You can have teamwork days at the park, at a restaurant or a library. Like at the library, they have the various meeting rooms. Like, you could do that. And if you did it at the park, all you have to do is then budget for a picnic, right? You budget for having certain foods and beverages, and you find, one of the covered table areas, and where you're eating, you're enjoying time. It's leisurely. Everyone can go and sit under a tree. Someone may have brought a hammock. You could have a tent, different tents or canopies out there. You can make a day of it where you're then being part of nature. You're getting outside of the office. And this could be something that you do, every month during your summer months when it's warm and it's not raining, or however you come up with it. But find ways to be creative. Stop putting people in a box, and start to redefine and reimagine that work environment and how to get the most and the best out of your people. And we give more when we feel appreciated, just like any relationship. If you're in a one-on-one relationship, love relationship, romantic relationship, we give more when we feel appreciated. Not necessarily when we get more, but when we feel appreciated, right? You'll cook more, you'll clean, more, you'll do different things because you feel appreciated. No one wants to cook when you don't feel appreciated. No one wants to buy something for you when you don't feel appreciated. And so the same translates in the workplace. So I want you guys to really, consider that. And there's other things that you can contemplate, like I said, depending on your work environment, your budget, what state or country you're in. There's certain things that just don't make any sense, right? But be creative, and always seek the input of your team members. Ask them what their interests are. Maybe you send out some kind of survey or whatever, and you find out what they like to do outside of work, and then find out what they would love to see take place in work. What would they, maybe you allow people to bring certain things into the workplace, where they can decorate their offices and workstations how they please, right? Of course, creating boundaries, because you don't want it to look like a frat house, or dorm room. But you're just making sure that people then feel comfortable being at work, and that they don't dread it. At the same token, then they leave work and then they're stuck in traffic or dealing with just external forces that then when they get home, they're not then even their best there. So we're trying to find a balance between the two. So you love going to work and you love coming home to talk about work, right? You love being able to come to work and talk about and share the great, energy from home. You want to have where there's not drudge and dreary, but you want to have it where it's a feeling of great wellness overall. So that is that for now. Of course, if you have any questions, or suggestions about this show, please email them to us at don'tcallitsmallbiz with a Z at the end at gmail.com. You know what this music means, right? It's that time again. It's time to wrap up and go our separate ways until next week. With that, be sure to check us out on Instagram and Facebook. You know, we just changed our Instagram. We listen to you. We love the feedback that you gave us about Twitter. So now Twitter and Instagram is at Foreman LLC and Facebook is at ForemanAssociates. So be sure to follow us, share us with your friends, colleagues, and family. And of course, you need to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Natasha L. Foreman. Reach out to me, say hello, share your story. I look forward to meeting you. We're also on, if you didn't know that YouTube, you can listen to and see this podcast as far as an audiogram by going to user/ForemanAssociates on YouTube. Our Twitter is, for the podcast, not for the company, but for the podcast is It Ain't Small. Yes. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Natasha L. Foreman. I look forward to meeting you. And I want to make sure I give proper credit for our show theme song. It's called Higher Up. It's by Shane Ivers. Thank you for tuning in to the Don't Call It Small Business podcast, for sharing these episodes with others, and for your continued support. And don't forget what I tell you on each and every episode. Don't call what you're planning, thinking, dreaming, or doing little or small. Go big, go bold, or go nowhere. I'll see you next week. Have a super awesome day and week.